Chapter 271. Lu Shu left the clearing at dawn. He looked the Daoyuan class students, who were all sound asleep, and gave a sigh. This bunch of students can still let down their guards and be so trusting of the environment after stepping into the remains. Still, he must say that training soldiers is what the Heavenly Network should rightly do. The only thing is, only a truly well-trained unit can stand up to the forces outside. If not, such a large-scale cultivation of practitioners would only end up becoming a joke in this world. Let's hope that they can mature speedily after going through setbacks. Even though they are only youths around the age of 16 to 18, nobody would let them go because of their age when during a war when facing life and death. He shouldered the little green bag and started towards the forest. Some woke with a start upon hearing his footsteps. These Daoyuan class students thought he was going to the latrine initially, but Lu Shu never returned. This Yuzhou Daoyuan class student who had made them feel inferior had decided finally to travel alone. This made them feel bad. Whether genius or not aside, when someone else could travel alone whereas they still had to keep to the group, the stark contrast would be even more painfully visible. No ab def, just a simple a yes, or a no, they were far beneath Lu Shu. Lu Shu left early. After running through the forest for 2 hours using all his strength, he suddenly started receiving the distress points of Gao Yi, Wei Qianni, and the others. This was a really huge wave. However, he did not think more of that. After all, it was no longer anything new for them to provide him with distress points. Still, he was slightly perplexed. Why did they suddenly start to provide him with distress points again? Are they grumbling because he refused to stay and help? However, it was not his duty to forego his own plans and help them. Everyone was earning salary, just that Lu Shu was earning a few $100s more. One should take responsibility for his or her own life. Lu Shu walked on. It took him a long time to finally determine the direction where the magical energy is strongest through feeling the gradual change in the energy strength over a large distance. The size of this remains was beyond belief. This Salt Lake remains might well be 4 to 5 times the size of the Beimang remains. He advanced cautiously, for he had already met a Class D giant python when plunging deep into the remains. It seemed as if the powers of the wild animals would be greater the nearer to the center of the remains. Lu Shu felt apprehensive. What class type of monsters would he meet at the core of the remains? However, the good thing was he observed that these trees did not change much. Their size were also similar to that of the trees seen previously. Of course, he would only know when the night arrives if these trees would be more powerful. It was a state of mess everywhere Lu Shu went. Everyone else would be trying to locate the matrix eye as quickly as possible, but Lu Shu was different. He went specially in search of small animals. On this road, any animals with teeth would basically have met a mysterious dentist. This remains seemed to have let in a formidable being. Chapter 272. Lu Shu looked at his back-end income recorder and frowned. He found this Japanese name extremely familiar, a spy. Previously, he had not come across any spy when he met up with Gao Yi's group. As a result, Lu Shu had almost forgotten about this issue. He was only reminded once again when the name of the distress points owner went into the record. There were surely still spies hidden in Qingzhou. However, Lu Shu gave a shudder. There were more than 30 people here right now. To find the spy would take great effort. Where should he start? At that moment, a relief captain called Wang Xinkai asked resignedly, "I was asking you, which part of the remains did you come from? How's the situation there? Why are you without any visible sign of injury and also traveling alone?" Oh, Lu Shu nodded. "You're asking this." Wang Xinkai felt frustrated. "Whether I am asking this, you would certainly not have come from the great eastern land of Tang, right?" Lu Shu explained, "I met up with a form teacher from the Shijing City Daoyuan class called Gao Yi. There are still more than 10 of them over there. Last night we were resting at the clearing and so were not attacked by the tree branches. This morning when we were about to set out, I went to the latrine and they did not wait for me, that's how I ended up being astray. The spy was now in their midst and Lu Shu decided to keep his own sense of existence to the minimum. It was best not to allow, at all cost, the spy to guard against him. The others knew not whether to laugh or cry on hearing this. He was indeed a talent to be abandoned by his group after going to the latrine. Wang Xinkai smiled. Gao Yi is my colleague. Hi, my name is Wang Xinkai. We are now preparing to advance. I'm sure you know how dangerous are these trees, so we have to reach the next clearing before sundown. This time, you better not get left behind again. Yes, I definitely won't, Lu Shu, beating his chest, guaranteed. The team walked forward. Lu Shu fell back to observe, trying to find out if he could rely on deduction to find out who was the spy. However, this is not much difference from futile work. Had the spy left any traces of clues around usually, how could he or she stayed in the dark for so long? He had wanted to the domestic magical device to check the dictionary and find out how to read the Japanese words. Initially, when he got the head-turning calabash, he had downloaded a foreign dictionary capable of translating 6 different languages, complete with the pronunciation function, when he was in the camp to prevent this problem. On second thought, the calabash could not be used now. He was not sure if the person was the spy. Once the calabash is used, the person's head would immediately turn towards Lu Shu. The person would definitely think there was something wrong with him or herself. When that happened, yet Lu Shu could not explain the spy's identity, he may end up courting trouble. Must think of another way. Wang Xinkai walked in front with 2 other Class D experts. Wang Xinkai suddenly asked, I wonder where is Heavenly King Chen now? If he can come out to lead us forward, we may breathe easier. Fu Hongxue shook her head. The Heavenly Kings usually move about alone. Their main mission is to locate the Matrix Eyes, or defend against external forces trying to enter the remains to pluck fruits. We will only be a burden if they bring us along as our difference in powers is way too large. This time round, the external forces have been causing less of a trouble, it seems. Wang Xinkai was stunned for a moment. I feel that after the Beimang remains, the external forces no longer dare to come and cause trouble. Moreover, the one leading the team this time is Heavenly King Chen. His bad temper is well known even overseas. Fu Hongxue shook her head. There has been a defense power vacuum ever since Heavenly King Chen arrives. It is hard to prevent anyone from exploiting this. Transport is now so convenient. It is always possible that someone first take a plane there then infiltrate from the border. Even though here in Qingzhou there are still Class C experts outside putting up defense, who knows if it would be successful? That's unlikely. If the Matrix Eye is stolen here, I am afraid he can't escape, Wang Xinkai said coldly. A guy by the side named Li Li smiled in acquiescence. I think that's right. Qingzhou is situated at the center. How can he escape even if he manages to steal the Matrix Eye? Fu Hongxue shook her head. Li Li, have you not seen the internal notice before? Over at the island state, there is a secret kung fu where one to sacrifice one's own companion as a price to pay to become a shapeshifter. They can then even become invisible without any reason and raise their enlightenment state. We met with a great loss at the Beimang remains because of this. I heard that Heavenly King Ye went specially to the island state 2 weeks ago to take revenge. Heavenly King Ye is really powerful, and the other person did not leave his. Wang Xinkai revealed a longing expression. Who knows when can we attain Heavenly King Ye's enlightenment state? Truly, the world is great enough for me to develop as much as I can. Forget about it. We are still way too far. Somebody laughed from the side. At that moment, they suddenly discovered that it was rather chaotic at the back. Turning their head around, they realized it was just the newcomer, Lu Shu, trying to strike up a conversation with others. Seeing that nothing was amiss, they went back to their own discussion. However, before they opened their mouths, somebody ran up from the back and asked Wang Xinkai and Fu Hongxue, I think there is something wrong with this newcomer Lu Shu. Did the previous group leave him behind intentionally? Wang Xinkai frowned. Don't sprout nonsense. How is it possible that my colleague left someone behind? Tell me, how is he not normal? The person started, then broke off. Fu Hongxue, slightly angered, said, talk when you were asked to, why hold back? The person was about to speak when he realized Lu Shu was already beside him. Wang Xinkai looked at Lu Shu and gave a frown. Lu Shu, you. Before he could finish, Lu Shu was heard asking the Class D expert beside them in a low voice fiercely, tell me, where is the 8th Root Army? Wang Xinkai? Fu Hongxue? Li Li? From Wang Xinkai's distress, plus 155. From Fu Hongxue. From Nozaman's distress, plus 312. What the heck is this about the 8th Root Army? How the hell would I know? Where are they? Lu Shu was momentarily stunned. There were only 3 people before him right now. He already knew the names of Wang Xinkai and Fu Hongxue when he first joined this group. Therefore, it could only be the Class D Heavenly Network fighter beside them. The trio were still flabbergasted. Lu Shu suddenly broke into a smile. I was just joking to liven up the atmosphere. So, I shall take my leave if there's nothing else. Please go on with your chat. Wang Xinkai, Li Li and Fu Hongxue looked on, befuddled, at Lu Shu's receding figure. It took them a long time to finally calm down. Wang Xinkai sighed with an inexplicable gloom, indeed, a little weird. Chapter 273. In the night, at the border between China and India. The Yarlung Tsongpa River officially entered the flood season, fed by water dissolved from the mountain snow as temperature rose. However, a group of 7 men could still be seen standing at the spot despite the oppressive heat, wrapped in their thick jackets. They were all wearing goggles and were utterly unidentifiable. They seemed more to be decked out for stealth missions than outdoor sports. One of them looked at his watch. The time has come, prepare to infiltrate. The Heavenly Network would never expect us to take a plane specially to infiltrate here. Chan Bailey is probably looking for the Matrix Eye in a remains right now. One of them guffawed. They thought India's combat effectiveness was greatly diminished, but probably don't expect us to infiltrate from here. The line of defense in China's South Tibet is the weakest now. It's the perfect time for us to seize the chance and enter. We still must be cautious upon entering. After accomplishing our mission, we will meet up and break through their encirclement northwest. There will be people at Zhangya coordinating with us and bring us out from the northern border, the leader said coldly. Synchronize our watch, equipment check. There should not be any worthy opponents outside the remains. According to intelligence reports, there is only one Class C master standing guard at the fringes. It would be a piece of cake for us 7 Class CS to kill him. Only thing is, what should we do if we run into Chan Bailey in the remains? The leader furrowed his brows. Escape if we run into him when alone. If we run into him when we are together, who knows if he may meet his end. Move out. The 7 jumped onto a bamboo raft one by one. Were they planning to infiltrate across the Yarlung Tsongpa River on the raft? However, as soon as the 7 got their footing, the last man sat down squarely on the raft. The calm waters beneath started churning wildly and the massive currents carried the little bamboo craft rapidly upstream, without anyone helming it. The Yarlung Tsongpa River, located in the autonomous region of southern Tibet, is the longest river in the plateau of China. It is also one of the highest major rivers in the world. Its source is the Kemayungdung, from a series of glaciers on the northern face of the Himalayas. The river flows eastward through 4 cities, Shagats of South Tibet, Lhasa, Shannon and Linji, and 23 counties. Major tributaries along the way, in chronological order, include the Parlung Tsongpa, Niangchu, Lhasa, and Niang River. It then traverses the Luayu region of the eastern side of the Himalayas, then flows south into Sadia, India, to be known as the Brahmaputra. It is also known as the Jamuna River after flowing into Bangladesh. The river joins the Ganges near the Bangladeshi town of Golandu before finally flowing into the Indian Ocean at the Bay of Bengal. The Yarlung Tsongpa's riverbed is mostly higher than 3,000 meters above sea level, making it the highest river in the world. The bamboo raft continued its course upstream. 6 men in jackets looked through their own goggles at the terrain rushing past them. Nobody would be expecting a bamboo raft speeding upstream in the dead of the night. "We are about to cross through the territorial boundary of China. Everyone be careful," the leader said calmly. The rest felt a jolt of fear. The words territorial boundary of China seemed to project an immensely terrifying effect upon them. When the Baimang remains were opened, 6 heavenly kings stood guard at the gateway into China. Class B foreign forces were better to be simply chased out, but any class below that would face far harsher actions. When Niating left, it was as if the plane was washed in blood. However, one of them gave a light-hearted laugh. "Team leader, Chun Bailey is in the remains now. Even if the place is guarded by the heavenly network, what can they do to us? We shall fight our way through all the way in. Stop crapping and get ashore," the team leader said quietly. The bamboo raft drifted towards the bank. The 7 men leapt deftly ashore. The leader ordered, "Check your gears again. If we are under heavy fire, cover our retreat according to our number sequence." However, a sigh broke the quietness of the night. The 7 men were all spooked. They peered into the darkness at the direction of the sound. The team leader immediately switched on his high-power torchlight. From the darkness, a man slowly walked out, his hands clasped together inside a black cloak. He sighed, "All of you still don't understand my point. Death shall befall any who dare to trespass into the country." As he spoke, the man's cloak flew up and, in the darkness, a white flash of light slashed out from his hands towards the 7. The team leader roared in anger, "Niating! Hide! Why is Niating here? Isn't Niating in the capital? Our information is wrong, this is a trap." The team leader leapt aside to avoid the danger. However, the rest behind him were not as fortunate. The slash came down with heavenly wrath, swiftly slicing 2 men in half, sending blood spewing into the Yarlung Tsongpa River behind them, to be promptly washed away by the turgid waves. The remaining members fled in all directions in mortal fear. Had it been anyone else, they would have stayed and fight, but any devious plots would seem like childish jokes before the Xianting Marquis, the #1 master of the East. Yesterday, a bowl of newly brewed wine, today a drink with Xianting. The wine is indeed good, but Xianting, a lethal blade. The remaining 5 men resorted to all means. The Class C master who was controlling the currents beneath the bamboo raft quickly drew water vapor from the air, and condensed them into countless water needles. He sent the needles flying towards Niating, but they were instantly dissipated by a defensive shield of air surrounding the latter. The supercilious Class C master who had been talking arrogantly when the team was traveling smashed his palm onto the ground. From the darkness, a myriad of tentacles extended towards Niating, but was reduced to nothingness with a wave of his blade. In the past, it was not as if they had not taken on a Class B master before. It was exactly because they had successfully defeated a Class B together, hence their confidence this time. However, the 5 suddenly understood a point. The Xianting Marquis, the #1 master of the East, was completely unlike any Class B masters. Great success of Class B pinnacle. The team leader retreated frantically in fear. No longer was he concerned for the well-being of his teammates, only hoping that they could buy him more time. As long as he could jump into the Yarlung Tsongpa River, that would be his chance to live. Behind him, screams of agony could be heard, once, twice, 4 times. Added to the 2 killed previously, the team leader was, by now, the only one left. Who would expect their meticulously planned plot to be thwarted by the Marquis upon entering China's territory? The team leader took a leap into the river, but heard a howling swoosh of blades when midair. Turning around, he seemed to be able to make out the Xian Ting Marquinha Ting's handsome face reflected under the moonlight, and the blinding flash of a blade. To him, all the sounds of the world seemed to cease at that very instant. A clean and complete break. Leaping up, he was one complete man, but what fell into the river were two entities. Thus, the end of a team of the awakened. One has to say, not only did this team overestimated themselves, but they had also underestimated the heavenly network. Keeping in his billowing cloak, Nye Ting walked back once again into the darkness. Such a simple point, why can't they understand? Chapter 274. The new guy in the team, he doesn't seem exactly to be of sound mind. I find it so too. He actually asked me where the 8th Root Army is. How the hell would I know? Oh, he asked you too. Lu Shu chuckled as he collected the distress points while tagging behind the group. It was now only 10,000 points away from 320,000 distress points. The first layer of nebula condensed into the corpse dog. What would the second layer bring? His level of power now is at the Class D peak of a pure power system awakened one. Even an ordinary Class D practitioner would be no match for him. A power system awakened person's peak power is its purest pinnacle of existence. It was not necessarily the fact that the other practitioners were weaker than him, but Class C and below did not have any special means to be a match against him. However, things would be different upon reaching Class C. No matter how fast people are, they cannot be faster than a flying sword. Lu Shu's greatest asset in his fight against a Class C is the corpse dog. Since everyone has but one life, whoever takes the first jab at the opponent wins. Simple as that. The corpse dog was still having too many usage restrictions now due to his current celestial energy capacity. Its energy would be drained after just 7 or 8 use. However, it would not be too much to call him a pseudo-Class C now. The corpse dog was his greatest trump card. The problem is, in this case he would not much different from other Class CS, and his endurance level was not as high. Therefore, now he belongs to the stage whereby he was capable of killing a Class C, but when they reach a deadlock, he would probably still lose. This was also the reason why he fervently wanted to break through the second nebula. He thought that if he persevered longer, he would have one flying sword more than others. By then, should he duel with a Class C, hey, you have a flying sword, I have too. Just thinking about that would make Lu Shu wake up in elation. He did not have to go through painstaking efforts to produce a heart sword. Looking at how others spend so much effort on their heart sword to the point of being malnourished, he could not help but be gleeful. In fact, he actually did not know how does the producing of heart swords works. It was simply groundless glee. The people in front who were gossiping about Lu Shu turned around and realized he was smiling gleefully to himself. They felt a shudder down their spine. Is he frightened out of his wits by the remains? It's possible. Poor thing. Actually, the remains aren't that scary. As long as one dares to fight, safety can still be ensured. I heard that when the remains at Yuzhou was opened, many Daoyuan students turned into scaredy cats. We the people of Qingzhou are so valiant. You're right. The student who replied felt a sense of superiority welling up. However, it did not cross their mind that the Daoyuan students of Yuzhou entered the remains utterly unprepared. Had they begun at the same starting line, everyone would probably have wet their pants similarly. At this moment, a python which was laying hidden in the trees spitted its forked tongue as it observed the group of people walking by below. For fear of danger, it did not make any move. Suddenly, one of the girls screamed when she saw the python. Everyone spun around, only to see Lu Shu catching the snake in his hands. The python looked breathless as it had its gigantic fangs pulled out from its mouth by Lu Shu, while he strangled it with another hand. After that, Lu Shu gave a nonchalant toss and the python disappeared into the woods. Lu Shu's moves were extremely fluid and utterly precise. Everyone looked on, baffled. The whole forest suddenly quietened down and a Daoyuan classmate in front of Lu Shu asked, "What are you doing?" Extracting teeth. Lu Shu replied tersely. All who were present had a muddled expression. Who goes to the remains to extract the teeth of wild animals? This kind of thinking is totally insane. If you can catch it, why not simply kill it straight away? What's the point of taking its teeth? However, it was the time to think about this. Wang Xinkai was already hurrying everyone forward from the front. During the remaining part of the trip, everyone started realizing that Lu Shu's actions just now were not spur of the moment. He plucked the teeth out of all animals he came across. The team at the front met a leopard. Before anyone could act, Lu Shu was heard shouting madly from rear, "Come, let me do it." Following that, Lu Shu was seen running like the wind to the front and took out the leopard's molar, before throwing it back into the forest. The leopard also had a look of incredulity. Wang Xinkai sucked in a mouthful of cold air. Is the selection process of the Daoyuan class so lenient now? How did this madman get in? Not long after the group left, a white-haired ape came out of the forest and, upon seeing the leopard, gesticulated wildly. There is a demon from God knows where who came specially to pluck our teeth. You must be careful. However, should you meet him, do not put up a fight at all cost. Look at me, all swollen from the beatings. Leopard, har har, you said it too late. Up in front, where the group went, Lu Shu's voice could occasionally be heard. Let me do it, let me do it. Stop. Let me do it. Let go of it. Hey, can't you hear? Let go of it. From Wang Xinkai's distress, plus 299. From Fu Hongshue's distress, plus 188. From Nozo Min's distress. From. All the teammates in the group were on the verge of collapse. Who the heck is this player? Ultimately, everyone was numb. Come, you do it. I am a dog if I even touch a strand of its hair. 3 hours later, Wang Xinkai finally led the group to a clearing where they could rest. As for Lu Shu, his distress points finally hit 320,000. Wang Xinkai sighed, the sun is setting soon. If we could not find a clearing by then, we would have to clear out an empty spot ourselves. We are fortunate. Even though the trees here have firm roots which went deep down, they would have to clear the vegetation if they could not find a clearing. Wang Xinkai was no blockhead, and was in fact an outstanding member in the Heavenly Network. To him, no matter how tedious it would be to clear the vegetation, it would still beat sleeping out in the forest. The students roamed about freely in the clearing with a smile on their face. It had been an exceptionally smooth day, with a place to rest at night, on top of having somebody to fend off the wild animals for them. However, everyone still felt a little uneasy when reminded of the wild animals today. It was indeed good not having to fight off the beasts themselves, but something was not quite right. Wang Xinkai was equally relaxed. Smilingly, he told everyone, whoever wants to use the latrine should go now. There's no tree for you all to do your business at night. Also, remember to go in pairs. The wild animals are most likely on their way here by now. Prepare yourself for battle when you return. We have to chase away the wild animals that come to this safe zone before we can sleep in peace. His words were humorous enough. The Daoyuan class students gave an understanding smile and went into the woods in pairs to do their business. Lu Shu saw suddenly that the spy, whose name was Lili, walking into the forest too. Also, he went in alone. Chuckling, Lu Shu started following him. Chapter 275. Lili crept noiselessly into the forest. Once he was sure that nobody was tailing him, Lili dashed into the forest depths. The spy had received a message from his superior earlier, to leave a secret code every time there was an opportunity to win in the remains. Honestly speaking, with a remains this immense, it was hard not to be seen. All they could ensure was to do their best and leave the rest to heaven's will. Whether able to link up was ultimately up to chance. He could only leave a code at every place he had been to increase the probability of the secret code being picked up. Now, there were no other communications means more technologically advanced upon entering the remains. He could only rely on this ancient method. However, simply because this ancient method had a low probability of success did not mean that failure was guaranteed. At times, success or failure depends on the smallest details. Who knows if a tiny little sign would result in the turning of tables? What they should do was to perform the minutest task well, and only then can they speak of leaving the rest to heaven's will. In fact, they had previously thought of firing signal flares, and Li even had a 3D printer with him to produce a signal gun which can pass through security checks. The problem was he had entered with the students of Daoyuan class and the heavenly network. How could he fire the signal flare? Even if he did, those who would come running would not be his comrades but the guys from the heavenly network. Actually, signal flares were merely backup means as they were highly unsafe. The organization had already begun their research for greater ease of communication in the remains, but this would take time. Moreover, the remains this time was special. The signal flare fired would either hit the thick vegetation or not be seen even if it manages to fly up into the sky. To tell the truth, snatching the matrix I was, to the spies, a task which required much luck. Their superior had also ordered them not to be too concerned with getting their hands on it, but continue their cover so as to hopefully obtain information of greater value in the future. A spy's true responsibility was actually undercover work and intelligence, and not to steal anything. There was no point in jeopardizing the overall mission by going for a task with a low rate of success. This is the big picture mentality of a country's machinery. Li found a big tree which strategic location was carefully considered. Its surrounding was relatively empty and was the kind that people would usually pass when picking a root from behind. He squatted down and carved 3 strange symbols onto the root of the tree, representing, respectively, his codename, number of enemies he was traveling with, and the number of days he had been in the remains. The secret signs belonged to no dictionary and would be taken as random scrawls by any normal person. It was almost impossible to tell that they were secret codes. Just as Li was about to stand up in satisfaction, he suddenly heard a chuckle from behind. "What are you carving?" From Nozo Min's distress, plus 599. Since when was there someone standing behind him? He gave a start, but feigned nonchalance as he stood up and looked behind. Isn't this the crazy Daoyuan class student who, though he was in some World War II anti-Japanese film, and enjoys plucking the teeth of wild animals? So many prefixes? Li feigned a nonchalant smile. "I was bored and decided to come test the firmness of the tree roots. What if we have to clear the trees one day? I, as a teacher, have to take preventive measures." Oh, Lu Shu nodded. "Sir, let me have a try too." Li's brows furrowed, then he gave another careless smile. "Give it a try then." From Nozo Min's distress, plus 99. Li toyed with the idea of doing away with this student there and then. Once Lu Shu squat down, he could run a sword through him without anyone knowing. Furthermore, even though this newcomer to the group had a large presence, he doubted that anyone would go to great length to find him should anything happen. It was turning dark soon. Once night comes, his body would be sucked beneath the roots of the tree, and who could ever find him then? Wang Xinkai was a man who valued stability. Li doubted that he would risk the danger and attempt a search for Lu Shu. However, as his hand grasped the sword hilt, Lu Shu went motionless. Li was momentarily stunned. "Why haven't you tried?" Lu Shu chuckled. "Sir, please lend me your sword." "How can I try empty-handed?" From Nozo Min's distress, plus 199. His plan has gone slightly awry. Li furrowed his brows. Could this student be trying to steal my sword? However, on second thought, this sounded laughable. Wasn't he but a normal Daoyuan class student? How could he be suspecting Li's identity? He gave a wide smile as he handed the sword to Lu Shu. Li had decided not to make any move for now. Without his long sword, he was not confident of killing Lu Shu. Even with the sword in hand, Li Li was not certain that he would not only injure Lu Shu and send him fleeing back into the clearing. To be honest, Li Li had been observing when Lu Shu plucked the teeth out of the wild animals earlier. This self-professed Class E power system awakened student would not be easy to deal with. At the very least, Class C and before would be very difficult for Li Li. He was not incapable of a direct duel, but he could not be sure of killing Lu Shu. This place was still quite a distance from the clearing. Upon handing over the sword, Li Li was not too concerned, until he saw Lu Shu defacing his secret signs with a few slashes of the sword. Lu Shu turned around and laughed. The roots are indeed strong. Your sister. Do you know how long I spent carving the signs? From Nozo Min's distress, plus 999. Li Li suddenly felt his breath quickening, his hands were quivering from anger. Lu Shu, my student, kindly return my sword, could you? Li Li smiled amicably. He wanted nothing more than to get back his sword and kill this guy right now. Oh. Lu Shu handed over the sword and Li Li reached over to receive it, his countenance kindly. More than 10 seconds later, Li Li sucked in a deep breath, loosen your grip. From Nozo Min's distress, plus 999. The sword was obviously being handed over, yet when it was in Li Li's hand, he could not remove it from Lu Shu's grasp. He realized with a shock that this guy's strength is much greater than his. Lu Shu seemed not to return the sword, before suddenly releasing it, causing Li Li, who had been tugging it hard, to stumble and almost fall. He suddenly felt that there was a need to find a chance to kill this person. Now was not the time, his strength was no match for Lu Shu's. Only that Lu Shu had suddenly appeared behind him and also destroyed his secret code. It was not a good feeling. No matter whether Lu Shu really suspected his identity, he would rather a wrong kill than to let an enemy run free. No need to be anxious. He knew more ways to kill a person than simply through using force. Before the recovery of magical energy, there existed so many ways to surreptitiously kill. Just wait for tonight.
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty, man, we just putting on a show. Try to look to the